Hey guys, welcome to a new series on my channel. This is probably gonna be awkward because I haven't uploaded in months, and my channel is taking a new direction because I'm going to be talking about Jurassic World Alive, and its updates. So today we're going to be talking about update 2.6 and if it's good, if it's bad, yeah, we're gonna be talking about that. So there's a lot of stuff in this. A lot of it I'm not gonna be opening up. Some of it I'm not gonna be opening up, like the bugs and the reduced damage because that's dumb. The reduced damage thing, I might talk about that. The first rare raid, Carnotaurus, a rare raid boss, is actually coming into the game, which is pretty cool. Early players are gonna be definitely thankful for this. And as we can see, he is going to be on Tuesday. So overall, I think this is a pretty cool feature. I really want to see how the rare raids work, as they said that they were designed to be done with 2 players. But they also said it's coming on the 23rd. And I'm assuming this comes out on like Tuesday. So I'm assuming it either comes out on Tuesday or Monday. I don't really remember. Raid battles have changed slightly. Mammotherium got nerfed to the boss version for some reason, and the warning pop-up will appear. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. That doesn't really matter. Raid rewards have been changed to allow lower level players to start participating in raids. And oh no, here is the big meat of here's where things start to get kind of excessive with me talking. This continental creatures. Oh, I do not like this at all. So basically, Pokemon Go has done something way back then when they did regionals, and basically, when they did regionals, everything was changed. Basically, um, people had to like trade to get them before you had to go there, before trading was introduced. So continental creatures. Now I really like the design of the Rinchenya. I really like it. Too bad I can't get it because I do not live in those areas. And they did say you can collect them from sanctuaries, and if you're in a big, um, like, if you're in a big alliance, then this isn't really an issue. I'm kind of in a big alliance, so this will work. But like for other people that really like stuff like Stegosaurus, they can't get it if they're not really in a big alliance. Requesting DNA has changed slightly. I don't like the cooldown change. They removed the daily limit, which I like that. Epic DNA Sundays. You can request Epic DNA, which I think is a pretty cool feature. So I can like, oh hey, I can request Epic DNA, which is pretty good. And it's only on Sunday, which is kind of a problem since my alliance only donates commons on Sundays. Maybe they'll change that. I don't know. So I like this. I think this is a pretty interesting feature. Next is the sanctuaries. Basically, stuff got changed around a little bit. For example, Scolosaurus, you used to be level 8, now you only need to be level 1. For some reason, they made it so Scutosaurus, you have to be level 20. But yeah, a lot has changed. But to be honest, this doesn't really matter if you're a top player. But if you're a low level player, wants to get Packy DNA, well now you can. So this website's actually pretty accessible. So you can just look it up, look at the requirements. Geolocation, we've changed it slightly so wild creatures spawn more, which I guess is pretty good for your enjoyment. View distance for common creatures has changed to 300. I really don't get this. Does this mean you'll be able to catch commons from 300 meters away? I don't know. Reduce damage. This is really simple. Basically, people didn't get what distraction meant, so they changed it to reduce damage. But it still says distraction. But I think we have to have a moment of silence for distraction, and it's gone. Anyway, on to the new abilities. Medium nullifying counter and exposing counter. Both counters And I think these are pretty good moves, especially the medium nullifying, and I think these are pretty good moves overall. None of them are really bad. Superiority Rampage only has one cooldown now, so I would say it's gotten a lot better. Which it used to annoy me because it's like Resilient Rampage is literally the same move but better. And it just made no sense why I had an extra cooldown, so they fixed that, and I like that. So, anyway, creature updates. Actually, we're going to talk about this one later. We'll get back to that. New creatures. This is going to get the big meat of the episode. Rinchenya, epic, continental creature. Devious, dodge, hit and run. It is cunning, it is a distraction dodger, and its moves are Devious Strike, Sidestep, and Rampage and Run. Now, it has... now, I think this moveset is pretty good, to be honest. Its stats are not really what I wanted. It has good damage. That damage is amazing, although the HP and critical hit rates are not as high as I want them to be. Although the speed is definitely very nice. The resistances, I could have added something else. So overall, I really like what Ludia did here. I think mine was very similar. In fact, it might have had the exact same moves. So overall, I really like what they did with Renchenya. Too bad I can't get it. Next is Stegosaurus. Oops, didn't need to do that. Stegosaurus is extremely weird to me. Cunning and fierce. Wait, fierce? How is it fierce? Critical? That doesn't really make sense. We're gonna say it's cunning. Now, the problem with Stegosaurus is that I think it is very, very bad. Unfortunately, I think it's pretty bad. It has Swap and Stun, which is awful. Cunning Strike, which, it's decent. Instant Charge, which is pretty good. And Critical Impact, which is awful. I don't even know why it has Critical Impact. That's such a strange idea. It also has pretty high attack, low HP, and speed. So the thing is that if you outspeed it, which is not really that hard to do, then it's dead, pretty much. And yeah, you could do something like Critical Impact into an Instant Charge, which that's actually a pretty good idea. But I just don't think this thing is good enough. Next up is Struthiomimus, which I can't get, but I know a lot of other people can. This is definitely the worst creature of this update. The worst, hands down. It is so bad. Evasive Strike, which is okay. Group Distraction. This move is god-awful. It is so bad. And then it has Cunning Rampage. It's basically just worse Ornithomimus. And what is up with these crit chances? Why? It has low HP, not even that high attack, not even that fast. Yeah, its resistances are good. Just don't use this. Unless if it gets a good hybrid, just don't. I would catch it anyway, but still, it's just worse Ornithomimus. God, I cannot say worse today. Centaurosaurus. This is another one that I think is pretty well handled. Now, they've always been adding all these weird stuff to the Hadrosaurs. They've always been, oh, my Asura has instant rampage, and now this one has group ferocity strike. And the fact that it has 1,250 damage, and it can go ferocity, and do an attack and heal, and it also has a pretty decent HP, I think this thing isn't really going to be good in arenas, but I could definitely see it be used in raids. Next is the pretty disappointing Andrewtodon. It's pretty sad, to be honest. It has no escape. Andrew Sarkis had that. Exposing Counter, which I think is a pretty good move. It's pretty solid. Fear Strike. Armor Piercing Impact. I don't like that. Cleansing Impact, which it gets out of nowhere. Actually, no, like Andrew Sarkis has. Yeah. And then Rending Takedown. So, overall, I don't think it's that good. I think its HP is too low. And here's what really gripes me. 15% armor and 25% crit. And yes, this is pretty high. It's better than Alicino's armor crit rate. But I was expecting something like 30% armor, 40% crit chance. And unfortunately, it just doesn't have that. So it's not going to be bulky enough, unlike Andrew Sarkis. It's not fast enough either. I still think it's going to be decent, and I could be underestimating it, like I underestimated um, the Dodic hybrid, the Dodicarus hybrid. What's its name? I can't remember. I think it's Ankylodicarus. Yeah, that Ankylodicarus. I underestimated him, and he ended up being pretty decent. So who knows? Maybe this guy's going to be pretty decent. Next, finally, actually, is the creature updates. Now, I'm not really going to be talking about most of these because they're just, oh, crit reduction change, crit reduction change. Actually, a lot of these are just crit reduction changes. Actually, all of them that aren't the big ones. So we're not really going to be talking about the ones that have the crit reduction, except Monolo Rhino, which for some reason got buffed. Why? I have no idea. It got buffed for some unknown reason. And I think they actually changed it, so it's either all in or nothing. You can't have only a 50% resistance now. I think they changed that. Anyway, on to the big ones. Antarctovenator. This one's going to be a long one. Antarctovenator got lower damage, higher armor, which definitely makes it have more survivability. Nullifying counter has been changed to medium nullifying counter, which people have been asking forever. Defense shattering impact becomes vulnerability impact, and distracting rampage becomes definite rampage. Now, I would consider this a buff, but I can't really compare this to the original Antarc because these two Antarc's playstyles are completely different. For one, this one's more tanky and has a lot less damage, so it's more resilient. Plus, with vulnerability impact, it actually becomes a wild card and not just cunning fierce, so that's a yay. But vulnerability impact really is not a good move, and whenever I played Antarc, because I play Antarc, I used to always go for defense shattering impact first turn. Unless if it was like super low HP, no armor. But still, it's like, wow, that nerf is huge. But then you look at its other move, definite rampage. And I would say this is a pretty good change. Distracting Rampage has a pretty bad delay, and this one also does. But the fact that it can go for a defense-shattering move that goes through armor, shields, and dodge, and you gotta remember that Antarctovenator has 100% distraction immunity. So this is 100% unblockable damage, which is very insane. I don't think anything can do literally unblockable damage nowadays. Besides for this guy now. And if you can be vulnerabilized, or whatever that's called, if you can use vulnerability impact on something like a Dio, per se, which doesn't have any way of cleansing it, then you can go for a definite rampage and do a ton of damage, because it's unblockable. It can't be distracted, you can't dodge it, you can't shield it, it is unblockable. But another downside of losing distracting rampage is that you cannot get your opponent to 0 damage and just sort of be safe. So overall, this is a very strange rework, but I would say overall it's a buff. Slightly. Unlike our next contestant, Entloania, who got very, very high buffed. Oh my goodness, this thing got buffed. First of all, biggest change, well, the two biggest changes, attack got increased by 200. That is insane. It gets faster. It has more armor, so it can tank. It also has dig in instead of emergency heal, which, I mean, like, it has 1400 attack, which, I mean, it's gonna heal less. Group decelerating impact becomes resilient impact, which I would say is better off in PvP. Not really much in raids, but nobody was using it in raids. And bellow becomes devastation. This is amazing. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't have a shattering move, which I would have rather it had. Like, maybe group shattering rampage or something. But this is a humongous buff. This turns Entloania from the second worst unique in the game to literally one of the strongest creatures. Like, definitely one of the top 15 strongest. Which is really insane to say that a turtle is stronger than, like, a T-Rex. It's ridiculous. And yes, I love the turtles in the game, and I love Entloania. And yeah, he got mega buffed. Entloania is definitely the thing that got the most buffed. Pucandactylus got a buff. Definitely not as big as Antark, but I meant definitely not as big of a rework as Entloania, but still pretty big. First of all, it got slightly attack increased, and it got the biggest change is that it got a lot more health, like a lot. It also got random critical hit chance. I don't know. Doesn't really make a difference. And the armor piercing counter becomes defense shattering counter, and it also has full stun immune now. So overall, this makes Pucandactylus a pretty good creature. Actually, a pretty decent creature. It's not amazing, but I mean, like, it's pretty decent, especially with that HP. That HP is huge. I mean, well, huge for a cunning. Um, and so it can kind of stall, so it's pretty decent now. The moves didn't really get changed at all. The final thing I have to say in this video is, as much as we hoped and prayed that Ludia would nerf Modelometrodon and Sarcorixis, they didn't. They remained exactly the same. They had no buffs, no nerfs. They're still gonna absolutely destroy the meta. They actually didn't nerf a lot of creatures that I thought they would, but they definitely did some buffs. Now, yes, they did nerf creatures like Indom, but I mean, like, turning down the critical hit reduction to 0 really doesn't matter, like, at all. So yeah, overall, I would say this is a pretty good update, although granted they didn't fix anything like Modelometrodon and Sarcorixis ruining the meta. But I still think it's a pretty good update, all things considered, because they added some okay creatures, but they didn't really add anything too big in this update. But I mean, like, this is definitely the biggest update we've had in a long time. And plus, they finally added dinosaurs since, like, 2.2, so that's pretty cool. I like the new creatures. I like their designs, as always with new Ludia creatures. Although, granted, they are kind of weak. It's besides for Renchenya. Renchenya is pretty good. He's actually pretty good. The creature updates are also pretty good. Antark got a slight buff. People are saying it got a nerf. I think it got a slight buff. Entloania got buffed, like a ton. It's now really good. And Pukan got buffed a lot. So overall, I would say this is a pretty good update, all things considered. Not really anything too massive, but, you know, I still gotta say it's a pretty good update. Anyway, see ya, because I don't really have an outro yet. Anyway, Typhoon Zack out.